Hello and welcome everyone. This is going to be an AFMD breakdown. Some little context here is we had ask prints at 1050 at print personality a few times this morning. It was about 4 or 5 and it was about 2 or 3 times there. We got an immediate pullback this morning from those 1050 ask, and now we're approaching 10. We had some great selling above 10. That off-level selling really shows us that we have the ability to break 10. On this pullback, we're expecting 10 bids. So just kind of watching the off level here. And the stock did have a gap up this morning as well. It's trading about 10 million shares. So just waiting for possible setup to be 10 bids or just to not hit and bounce. And then there we'll evaluate what the substance is if we have the possibility to make a run to 1050. Some more. Okay, we have 10 bids. Those are above print personality. I would say that's a burst of around 10. And our print personality is about 4. So that's over double of our print personality. So from our rules, we know that needs a pull up. So we're expecting a pull up. The way it trades, and its highest range is $1.24. I would expect maybe a 30-cent pull-up, 25-cent pull-up. Could possibly get a 50-cent pull-up, but that will need a lot more of those riders to step in on the ask to make that move. And then we do have those ask at 1050. So it's an interesting situation here. We have bids at 10, ask at 1050. What could happen is we could get the pull-up from the 10 bids that's above print personality to trigger up and to satisfy that position at 1050 for them to make money, that market maker to make money. But just knowing the bids at 10 there is not ideal sign for a move to 11, truthfully. But we are pulling up here. We did pull up a good amount as well, though. This is an interesting situation because we have those 10 bids and 1050 ask above. So we could get a run to 1050 to 11, but I'm not really seeing the substance on the ask to really show that someone has urgency to accumulate, someone wants to accumulate. It really just seems like this was a pull up for those bids that we saw at 10 and above 10. And working our way back to 10. Yes, I would have not taken that third bar to trigger up. Personally, I just think there's not enough room to take a building trade on something like this. I would rather wait for the actual trade towards the prints in terms of the bids. And just knowing that we had that short-term selling above 10 as well, it just wouldn't make sense to take that long there, truthfully. Even though we had some at print personality prints above ask. Just knowing that this move is going off of bids is just not a good sign for a long, truthfully. So just kind of hanging in the consolidation here. Just looking at the flow to get any indication of timing, of urgency. We are entering a little bit of a volume pattern. And just knowing how this is a hot stock and it's trading over 10 million, most likely not going to die off for the day. We're most likely going to see another bar, and we're just in a consolidation pattern here. And we anticipate and expect another bar out of here. Whether that's back towards the bids at 10, I would lean more towards that. I'm not seeing the urgency on the ask side of this. And I know we had the short term. I would say the pull up for those bids at 10 is satisfied. That's enough given the amount this stock trades in the range for that. We could easily see a trigger here back under 10. Some more bids at 10. Some decent buying or decent selling under 10. And that wasn't a trigger necessarily. I mean, if you look at the volume, it's still waning. You don't want to take a trigger on waning volume. Still has the potential for a trigger here though, and it has the pattern, has the volume pattern setting up for some price action and volume here. So very well could see that. We could see it just continue to 950 here, or we can get another pull up from the 10 bids. Again, it's just this is such an interesting case that I saw I traded this morning. It was just, we had the 1050 ask above. We know there was a market maker sitting there. It wasn't necessarily great, but it was there, and especially during the pre-market, you don't expect massive above personality prints. So has the possibility to make a run to 11, but just knowing that this move is foundation on 10 bids a few times now just makes that a low percentage trade in my opinion to the long side. We are setting up for a bar here out of this pattern, but just taking a trigger to 1050, even though we do have the ask there that could possibly make money, even more bids at 10, it's just asking to get shaken out here. If you take a long bar, I mean, we are setting up in a volume pattern, and this could go either way. Could continue with a larger pull up from the bids, or we can go on our way for those bids to make money to the downside and hit 950 price target. So we know bids are strong above print personality at 10. We could get a large pull up out of this volume pattern here, or we can break down to 950. Either or. I'm not going to be set up for a long. In my opinion, I don't think there's enough room personally. I don't think it's high enough percentage of a trade. Just knowing that there's so much selling at 10 and underneath this long I'll be taking here. There's a trigger out of a volume pattern. Some 1050 ask at print personality. Again, this is a tricky one, guys. You could be tempted here to take this long. Okay, we had 1050 ask at the pre-market a few times, and now we have more 1050 ask, and the volume looks great right now. We're waxing. We have the highest volume bar, close to 2 million. We had some decent off level under 1050. It could be tempting to think that this market maker is going to make another 50 cents here on this position, and it's a valid thought and a valid breakdown, but I think understanding that the basis of this trade is the 10 bids that are super strong, it does not make it worth that long trade, in my opinion. And that volume is not going to sustain itself. Just coming from a sheer trigger perspective, if we take that trigger, we have to understand that that volume is most likely not going to sustain just from the personality it's shown us this morning. 2 million. We have to understand that that's most likely going to pull back pretty quick. If you did take that long, it's going to be a really quick trade. In my opinion, I think we still have more room to the downside unless something above really shows that there's a lot more urgency to get to 11, and volume would need to continue to wax or be above 1.4 million, in my opinion, to get to 11. We need to hold this print line. More buying, we need to step in, and we need to continue up. So setting up another pattern here, respective bar coming here. But again, that volume just doesn't, I suspect it wouldn't sustain in this situation. 1050 ask a few times. Has followed rules fairly well in pulling back, so very well could pull back here. And this pattern as well is just understanding, like it broke out. The 1050 ask and is pulling back a little bit. You would suspect it would be setting up for a number 4 long trade. But again, you have to understand the foundation of this trade, of this open of this trade. The open, we got initial pullback and we got 1050 or 10 bids. There was significant, and we had the great selling above 10. and there's a trigger back down, 10 bids. And that's the issue with this trade here, is just it was quick. The 10 bids told us that pull up was going to be quick. It was the first thing that we got. It was our first show of hand this morning when the market opened. Was 10 bids multiple times. It was about 3 times, and then we got that large pull up, and then we started getting the 1050 ask, and we just ended up getting that trigger down. Some more great selling under, and it just shows that you have to understand what the foundation of your trade is built on. We got a whole move up, which is our number 3 long trade based off of bid print above print personality, which was 10 being psychological level, gave us a large pull up, and then it's set up with the highest volumes of the morning, some unsustainable volume bars, and it felt like a long, like we could take this long to 11, just because like you bring in the pre-market, and from the market maker perspective, that they're building at 1050 and they have a position at 1050, and you think that they'd want to make money on that position, but overall it was just a last ditch to get out of shares. I think the lesson here is just the whole catalyst to this move was the bids at 10. So we know in that case we're expecting about a 50-cent pull up from how much that was above print personality, but we can't be tricked by the pre-market and then the ask at 1050. We still have to understand that their intentions aren't to continue this long when they sell that much at 10. They show that much at 10 that they're either setting up for a short or getting out of their long. Regardless, they're showing that they're getting rid of a lot, and they bring it up to 10. That was maybe at print personality. It was maybe 1/3 of what they showed at 10. And it was deceiving, and the volume was very deceiving as well. We had the highest volume bars of the day. It was really showing that it had the possibility and capability to continue to wax, but it just shows that you really have to pay attention to the substance of the open, regardless of what the pre-market shows. I hope you guys take some valuable information from this. This was more of a difficult one for me to break down, more to wrap my head around. I might have not explained it the best, but this is more for screen time. This is more for you guys to think a little more in depth, for you to gather some new thoughts and opinions based upon our 1 through 4 trades and how we look at new stories. So thank you all for listening. Appreciate it. And if you have any feedback, you want to make any comment, feel free to do that. Thank you all.